Call Marty and Clay at 842-KERN or toll free at 1-800-640-KERN. Now, more of Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180.
We are back on Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180. 1180.
1180.
1180, okay. Our guest by phone is Sally Pipes from the Pacific Research Institute. Sally, I've got a question for you, same question I asked Brian when we had him on. Being a conservative think tank in the Bay Area, is there a large moat around the Institute to protect you from the liberals in San Francisco?
Well, the reason that PRI, it's funny, is in San Francisco is because our founder, Sir Anthony Fisher, who founded the Institute for Economic Affairs in London, England, after World War II, and a number of think tanks around the world, he met his second wife, who was a conservative in San Francisco, and they lived in the same apartment building as Milton and Rose Friedman. So
Wow.
That's why we're in San Francisco. But it is a difficult market. But, it's amazing when we do our annual gala, and our annual gala will be this November 11th with Art Laffer. We usually get 400 to 500 people. So I think people are often afraid to tell their neighbors that they're conservative, but there is, a fairly large group of people in San Francisco who actually are conservative. But of course, the city council, the representatives in Congress and in Sacramento, of course, are all very liberal. So when you read and hear what they have to say, you would think 100% of the people actually believe in what these people have to say. But it's not easy, and I'm always worried about whether I'm talking about affirmative action or healthcare. I will get a bomb threat or whatever, because some people are very agitated, and they don't think about the policy side. They just or want to just shut down any balance in terms of views.
Mm-hmm, definitely. Now, you've written 3 books then, right? You've written the recent one, Truth About Obamacare, that just came out, the Top 10 Myths of American Healthcare, A Citizen's Guide, and Miracle Cure, How to Solve America's Healthcare Crisis and Why Canada Isn't the Answer. So where would somebody obtain a copy of those books if they wanted to read a little more about Obamacare?
They're all available on Amazon.com. You can download them to your Kindle or your iPad as well. And they're also available through Borders and Barnes & Noble, and also can be ordered at local bookstores. So Tom Sowell from Stanford and Hoover did a syndicated review of The Truth About Obamacare on his Creator Syndicate column a few weeks ago, and it pushed the book, The Truth About Obamacare, to number 38 on Amazon. So it's doing well, and it's written really for the man in the street. It's not complicated, but it's really educating Americans on what this act means. As you say, the Patient Unprotection and Unaffordable Act means for them and their health care. Because, the president said, if you like, over and over again, if you like your insurance plan and you like your doctor, nothing is going to change.
Oh, he lied.
Yeah, he lied.
He lied. Joe Wilson was right. He's a liar.
Exactly. And already Principal Financial Group has announced they're pulling out of the insurance market, affecting 840,000 policyholders that they have. And so this is just the beginning of what we're going to see, because insurance companies can only stay in business if they can make a profit. They're not the government. They can't, tax more or build up a deficit in order to keep the programs going.
But as a government program, there's no need to make a profit. Let's look at some of the other industries that the government runs. How about the post office, the Department of Motor Vehicles? Oh, look at Social Security with its unfunded liability. You touched on Medicaid and Medicare earlier, and then how they took care of Katrina, and then VA care. Is there anything the government can do and make a profit?
Well, absolutely not. And the American people are not happy with the lineups at the DMV. My husband actually left his keys at LAX on his way to Cleveland a couple of weeks ago, and when he came back and he went to the TSA counter before he left the airport, and they said, "Oh yes, we do have your keys." And so he said, "Well, could I have them back?" It was reported in the book, and they said, "Well, no, actually you can't. They're at an off-site location." And he said, "Well, can I go and pick them up?" And they said, "Well, it's only open Monday to Friday, and you have to call them, and they will call you back if they have your keys, and you can come and pick them up." So after making 3 calls on the Monday to the TSA place, which he didn't know what the address was, he still had not heard back. So on Tuesday morning, I called United and found out where this place was, and we went there and picked up the keys. Tuesday night, the TSA called back and said, "We have your keys." And my husband said, "Well, I already have them. I got them." And they were astounded that we found out where it was. But this is just a glimpse of what's going to happen to Americans when the government fully takes control of our healthcare system.
I've always said you'll be making your doctor's appointments at the DMV. Hey, Sally, I've heard about life and death committees. Can you talk about that at all?
Yes, I mean, and the whole idea of death panels. Well, Don Berwick is the new, by recess appointment, administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. If you spend your time reading about healthcare like I do, Don Berwick is a huge fan of the British National Health Service and its NICE organization. NICE is not NICE. It's the National Institute for Health and Clinical Excellence, where government bureaucrats in England determine whether a drug, treatment, or procedure is cost-effective as compared to medically effective. Don Berwick has said publicly, it's not a question of whether we're going to ration care in this country. It's whether we're going to ration it with our eyes open. So he has control over the new Comparative Effectiveness Institute. And I believe under his tenure, we will see government bureaucrats making decisions about medical devices, biologics, and drugs, about whether they're available to people if they're only if they're cost effective, not medically effective. This bureaucracy in England works out your quality adjusted value of life. So say your value, they determine at your age, you're worth $45,000 a year, but a new cancer drug like Sutent is going to cost $55,000, then you're denied that. And this is what's going to come to America, and we're already seeing it with Avastin, which is a cancer drug which has been approved, though, for use for breast cancer, and we've seen some very good results. But an FDA panel has ruled that it's not cost-effective, and so on December 17th, the full FDA could well ban Avastin as a breast cancer treatment drug. So this is all part of how do you lower costs in healthcare. You lower them by denying treatments and care to the Americans, and it's not going to be a pretty picture because the American people, unlike Canadians and Brits, do not want to be told they can't have access to a treatment.
Well, the Canadian people all come to the United States for care if they have to get anything done. But what's interesting also, I found this recently from the Heritage Foundation, is that Fidel Castro was one of the people that complimented and praised Obama for passing health care.
Well, you know, I have a cameo appearance in Michael Moore's movie Sicko, which, you know, he uses my interview with Bill O'Reilly as an introduction to the Canadians that he interviewed who liked the Canadian healthcare system. But as we said in the beginning, those are people that probably have not had to use the healthcare system in Canada in any meaningful way. And then, of course, Michael Moore flips down to Cuba and shows this beautiful hospital. Well, that hospital is not available to the average Cuban. And when you looked in the background, you could see, you know, the squalor and the type of the way that, you know, Cubans actually live. And a lot of Cubans, if they have relatives in Florida or in Texas, they have to get aspirin and toilet paper, you know, sent to them because the system is so appalling. So, you know, Fidel Castro, being a communist, I think, you know, he sees, you know, has an affinity with President Obama, who I believe, you know, Obama, Pelosi, and Reid, this whole thing is not just about taking over our healthcare system. They have an ideological vision about government can make decisions better for the American people than we can make for ourselves. And that is not the American way, but it's what they want to do. They want government to take over our lives.
Incredible. Sally, thank you so much for taking the time with us. I'd love it if we could possibly talk with you again after the first of the year and see what progresses after the election. That would be great.
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sally.
Thank you, Sally.
One last comment before we leave. Let's see. Next week we have Shannon Grove and David Valadeo on with Michael Bowers. And if those of you in Tehachapi, from 4 to 6 tomorrow, there will be a meeting at Zach Scribner's office with Kevin McCarthy. Thank you for spending your weekend with us, and we'll see you in 167 hours.